Hello everyone. Welcome back to another Commander review for Magic the Gathering. We are still in the future site set. We're almost done though. We only have a few more commanders to talk about here. We're about halfway. And today we're talking about our third Grandeur Commander. This is Linessa Zephyr Mage. Now Linessa is a legendary human wizard. It has a power and toughness 3/3 and a mana value of 4. 3 generic and 1 blue. Linessa has an activated ability for X, 2 blue, and tap. Return target creature with mana value X to its owner's hand. Just to clarify on that, it does specify in this card that it is mana cost X to its owner's hand. And that's important to note because it doesn't say, what's important here is what's missing. It does not say with mana value or converted mana cost X or less. So you have to bear in mind that whatever it is you are bouncing from the battlefield, you need to do exactly that much mana in order to bounce that creature to its owner's hand. It has to be equal to. It cannot be equal to or less. Second, we have the Grandeur ability, which I've talked about twice. This will be the third time, twice before. The most previous instance is in Core Lash. Go check that video out. But Grandeur is a mechanic that requires you to have multiple copies of your commander, which obviously you cannot do in a singleton format. So if you are going to try using the Grandeur ability, you're going to have to figure out some way of making a copy of your commander, which it's probably easiest to do in blue. This is probably the easiest way to do it, especially to make non-legendary versions of this commander. This is probably the easiest way to do the Grandeurs. You need to have a copy of your commander in play, whether it's create a token, hopefully it's non-legendary, or have a clone effect that comes into play as a copy of your commander. Hopefully it becomes a non-legendary version of your commander. And then you need to get Linessa, the original, back into your hand. And you need to do that because in order for Grandeur to work, discard another card named Linessa Zephyr Mage. So any copy that you have in play will have this ability. So you discard the original from your hand, which will allow you to target player returns a creature he or she controls to its owner's hand. Then repeats this process for an artifact, an enchantment, and a land. Which is pretty mean, especially if you can figure out some way. This is where blue might struggle a little bit, is because you discard Linessa, and then you need to get Linessa out of the graveyard back into your hand, so you can discard it again, and again, and again, and again, so you can really, really work this ability here. If you can do that, you can essentially clear your opponent's entire board very easily, because you'll be getting rid of a creature, an artifact, an enchantment, and a land. 4 permanents by simply discarding one card named Linessa Zephyr Mage, which is very, very cool. There is one card ruling for this commander to bear in mind, and this is for the Grandeur ability. Linessa's Grandeur ability targets only a player. That player chooses which permanents to return as the ability resolves. The permanents are returned one at a time in a specific sequence. The player can't return an artifact creature and have that creature count as both the artifact and the creature, for example. For example. So just to come back to this card, it reads target player. You don't pick the targets that are going back to the hand, you simply pick the player, they pick the rest. However, they need to go in order of creature back to their hand, then an artifact, then an enchantment, then a land. And they have to do all 4 if possible. So, like it was saying there, you cannot do an artifact creature and count it for both artifact and creature. That would count towards the creature first. Then they'd have to bounce a different artifact back to their hand. Then they'd have to bounce a different enchantment back to their hand, because there are artifact enchantments, there are artifact creatures. There are even enchantment lands. So the land will also have to be bounced back separately, which is why if you can pull the Grandeur engine off, this is the easiest color to do it in, and it is pretty oppressive if you can do it multiple times, especially in a single turn. Absolutely bonkers. And going off of that, if you can equip the copied version of Linessa with something like Illusionist Bracers, then it's going to happen twice, which is very insane. Very insane. Setting the Grandeur mechanic aside, this is a great way for you to bounce multiple targets off the board. One of the things that is cool to note with this commander, especially with the Illusioner's Bracers, is if you wanted to, you could do X equals 0 with the Illusioner's Bracers, so you would bounce 2 creatures with mana value 0 back to their owner's hands. So this is a great way to get rid of tokens, like pesky 10/10 Eldrazi tokens, or other things of that nature, or face-down cards that don't have a mana value. Stuff like that. This is a great way to get around those kind of threats on the table with this commander by putting 0 into that cost. Now, correct me if I'm wrong about that, but that should be how that works, is you just simply put 0 into X, because there is no mana value for those tokens or face-down permanents. So that is a way that you can bypass and get around those threats without having to, use up your nice removal spells that you want to use on non-token permanents and stuff like that. And then, just as a fun build-around, crazy, unique deck idea, I've been playing around with frogs on Arena still, even to this day. And frogs love it when they are bounced back to your hand, and then coming back into play, and then bouncing back and forth. They like to hop around, right? And there are some fun non-flicker bounce-related frogs cards as well that can turn your opponent's stuff into frogs, which is very fun. So I think this would be a fun flavor win, and your commander does somewhat do what frogs care about. They want to bounce things back to their hand. So it could be a fun build-around. But there are probably better commanders for this outlet. I just think this would be a fun deck building challenge. And your commander does do what frogs want. They want things to bounce around, which is very cool. I love frogs. Frogs are fun. And that is going to do it for Linessa Zephyr Mage. Now, this is kind of interesting to see because all of the other Grandeur cards have gotten S tier. There's a lot of different decks around that you can build for them. This commander has like maybe 7, maybe 3, I don't remember. It has a very small amount of different deck ideas that you can build around. And I hate to say it, it's probably because if you wanted to build Wizard Tribe, there are better wizards that you could build around. If you wanted to build a bounce commander, there are better wizards, or better bounce commanders, or cheaper bounce commanders. When it is compared to what we have in today's meta and today's ensemble of commanders to build around, it does fall short to a lot of them. However, I think this is awesome to see because this means that this is now a commander that we can spend time around building. Maybe someone figures out a fun way to build a clone deck with this commander and really goes hard with the Grandeur shenaniganery and really oppressing the board state with this almost very, very slow, very difficult to set up board wipe control commander with the Grandeur mechanic. I think that would be very cool to see. There's a lot of possibility for this commander, which I love to see in the sense that anything that is F tier means there's a lot of opportunity for us as deck builders to build around. So let me know what you guys think about this commander in the comments down below. And thank you guys so much for all your support. As always, I will see you in the next one. Bye!